Mr. President, we thank the Presidency for the prompt convening of the meeting in connection with Israeli strikes on Qatar at the request of Algeria with support from Somalia, Pakistan, France, and the United Kingdom. We are grateful to the Undersecretary General, Rosemary DiCarlo, for the briefing. We attentively studied the position of the Qatari side, which was set out in a letter which was circulated on the 9th of September. We believe that such assessments of what transpired will be provided by the Prime Minister, Minister for Foreign Affairs of Qatar. We welcome your participation, Mr. Prime Minister, Mr. Minister, as well as the Minister of the Representative of Jordan, as well as other participants. Mr. President, the Russian Federation condemns in no uncertain terms the attack carried out by Israel on 9 September, targeting a residential compound in Doha, the stated target of which was the senior leadership of the Palestinian Hamas movement. As a result of this egregious attack, according to preliminary reports, 6 people died, including a staff member of the Interior Ministry of Qatar, and Emirati citizens died. We are very much concerned by the fact that the Israeli Air Force carried out strikes targeting a residential area in the Qatari capital, where foreign missions are carried out, where foreign missions are located. The Russian diplomatic mission is 600 meters from the area of the attack, as well as there are homes there and busy roads, as well as schools and kindergartens. In other words, the victim of this large-scale airstrike, which was carried out in the middle of the working day at 15:45 local time, could have been far greater. The number of casualties could have been far greater. These are innocent civilians, including our diplomatic colleagues, their wives, and their children. They're in an egregious violation of the sovereignty of states, as well as the creation of grave threats to the safety of ordinary civilians, have no justification. We fully share the assessments of the Secretary General about the inadmissibility of Israeli strikes targeting Qatar, which represents an encroachment upon the territorial integrity of an independent state. We also agree with the statement of the SG about the positive role of Qatar and its intention to desire and focus on putting an end to the conflict, which has lasted for nearly 2 years, the war in the Gaza Strip, which has lasted for nearly 2 years. What is particularly cynical is the fact that Doha, as one of the key mediators between Palestinians and Israelis, has over recent months been tirelessly working to end the bloodshed in Gaza and for the release of detained persons. The Hamas leadership, according to reports, was willing to move towards the achievement of these agreements. And precisely when the missile strikes were carried out on 9 September, the leadership of the movement was discussing in Doha the latest proposal of the U.S. Special Envoy, Steve Witkoff. In this way, the strike, which targeted not just Qatar, a sovereign state, which incidentally was not engaged in the Arab-Israeli conflict, but also the strike targeting the efforts of mediators, targeting the very possibility of a diplomatic solution to the Palestinian-Israeli conflict. It is clear that this Israeli attack will have grave consequences, both for the already atrocious situation in Gaza and for the security of the vast region of the Middle East. Mr. President, unfortunately, what transpired 2 days ago is no coincidence. This is the logical consequence of the utter impunity of West Jerusalem, which time and time again has been testing the limits of what is possible, and it is opening up new horizons for itself by exploiting the international diplomatic cover provided by Washington. And the carrying out of these unprovoked acts of force by Israel is camouflaged by slogans about imagined threats to the security of the Jewish state at the so-called 7 fronts. We remember perfectly well on the evening of 31 July 2024 in Tehran, the former head of the Hamas Politburo, Ismail Haniyeh, was killed. At that time, the leader of the Palestinian movement was in the Islamic Republic of Iran with an official invitation to participate at the inauguration ceremony of the elected president of Iran, Masoud Pezeshkian. The political murder was then carried out with the same goal, namely to carry out a major deal a major blow to the proxy talks between Hamas and Israel, which are geared towards achievement of a ceasefire in the Gaza Strip. The strike on Qatar, where a major U.S. military base is located, has become a fundamentally new wave of regional escalation. If the Israelis are willing to eliminate their political opponents in a state that is so close to their main ally, what is then stopping them from carrying out similar acts in any other capital in the world? Why then, in principle, why should we, in principle, conduct scrupulous negotiations on a ceasefire and the release of hostages if it is simply possible to place a bullet in the skull of one's interlocutor? Mr. President, the nefarious practice of the liquidation of eminent political and military actors is not merely a crime. This is a desecration of the principles of civilized cooperation among states. This poses threats of uncontrolled escalation. We call upon West Jerusalem to abandon the reckless acts of aggression which provoke the ongoing waves of violence in the region. There is a need for all members of the Council to send a similar message. I believe that it is clear now to all that Washington's stated focus on so-called quiet diplomacy not only is failing to yield results, but this is fraught with generating new risks and further escalating tensions in the already fraught atmosphere. And by specifically referring to that premise, the U.S. delegation has for nearly 2 years been blocking all efforts at the Security Council. It is difficult to identify where lightning needs to strike for Washington to finally recognize that multilateral diplomacy through the Council is not just not an obstacle, but this is the only tool that is available and necessary to reverse the situation on the ground. In this connection, we support the focus of the 10 non-permanent members of the Council to advance a draft Security Council resolution on the situation in Gaza, with an emphasis on the demand for Israel to lift all limitations on the delivery of humanitarian assistance to the Strip. We trust that this product will also incorporate a call for a ceasefire, without which it will be simply impossible to alleviate the humanitarian situation there. We believe that the adoption of the resolution will be an important and effective measure to alleviate the plight of the Palestinian people. Mr. President, to conclude, I wish to once again extend solidarity to the people and leadership of Qatar who have been targeted by the hawkish military political cabinet in Israel. The consolidated detailed consolidated Russian-Arab assessments of this unprovoked act of force and the whole of developments in the Middle East were made today in Sochi during the Russian GCC summit. The Security Council also adopted a press statement in connection with the strikes. Unfortunately, this does not incorporate everything that has to be incorporated. Not every spade is called a spade there. Thank you.